It's
Like some sort of like perforate or something.
This is like an inherently dangerous activity that will. I mean,
there are certain powders that if you like just like if you drop it or if they experience any sort of concussive force, not even a spark, just you tap it wrong, it'll go. When
he's sitting here with his pliers, you know, and it's like silly. At any moment, he just needs one little spark, and there's a fix.
Yeah, especially if like, you know, you're sitting there with a pile of whatever caps.
Yeah, he's got caps. He's got. I mean, who knows what is going on here? Oh, the sound is good. Did I switch over? Hold on, I thought I switched over. That's weird. Oh, there we are. Hello. Can you see us? There you go. I don't know why, but the YouTube, like, it lags quite a bit. All right, we're good. I think we're going to switch over to the 5Gs. What's that? And now we're doing 6G. What? And 6G is already, 5G is done, man. They're all, I just saw an article that the US and the Chinese are already battling over 6G. 5G is so last like 5 minutes ago.
How much data does a person need? Like, are your YouTube videos really not loading fast enough?
It always seems like things are fast until you see what real speed is like, right?
I don't know. I just don't think 5G is for consumers. It's for people who want.
That's what the government wants you to think.
No.
That's what the government wants you to think.
It's all about upload speeds now. I don't know. I don't actually work.
You know, when you are doing online gaming and you have like frame.
But if you're doing online gaming, why do you need 5G?
So when you have like VR online,
why are you doing that on on a wireless network? Like
because people want to do it.
It's silly.
Because people will make billions of dollars by delivering content.
That feels like the excuse.
Whenever I see old video from like the 80s, like before they had HD on the television, so they have old video, and it never felt like I was watching something that was so blurry when I was actually watching it in the 80s or the 70s.
Yeah.
But when you go back and you watch it,
well, tape also degrades over time.
It looks terrible.
It degrades over time. They weren't always that bad.
Be that as it may, like even when you go and you watch like the old NBA, like the actual footage, like on the NBA TV channel, whatever.
Yeah.
And you go back and you watch it's broadcast quality. It's not, they're not broadcasting, they're not what's the word I'm looking for? They're not rebroadcasting it off of bad videotape. This is all, this has all been digitized. It's essentially the same.
When they digitized it, most of that stuff was old.
It still looks like crap.
It was crap when they digitized it, so that's like why.
I'm saying it's more or less pretty good stuff. And it offends me that it's so blurry. I want to look, and the other thing is that this content they're going to start streaming, at some point video games are going to be life quality.
Sure.
It's going to be like,
but like
me,
has nothing to do with 5G.
I just want to jack in right here, Kevin, like the Matrix, and just like be in another world.
Silly.
And how can I do that if I'm not on like 10G?
Are your YouTube videos not clear enough? They're coming in clear, right?
They're more or less clear.
I mean, more or less. Like
it's
how
like
much,
720. It's not great.
Maybe you have to pause like a second to get it.
It's not 5K. Like I want.
Is 5K a thing now?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What are you talking about?
5K? How many Ks? There's going to be a point where your eye isn't going to be able to tell any more difference.
Yeah, but we're not at that point.
We're not at that point yet. But I don't know.
I'm so sore.
Why can't we just wait until that point, and then we all just collectively, once we get there, we just buy our last TV, and then
John, I was watching this video that I wanted to talk about today, and in the video, John talks about this concept.
Which John?
John Danner. Talks about this concept. It's an economic concept. I don't really understand it. I'm just going to repeat it. I kind of understand it. It's the idea of there's maximizing, there's minimizing, and there's satisfying.
Satisfying?
I don't know. He may be full of shit. I don't know if I've never heard this term before. But he claims in this video that satisfying is like basically satisfying for the good enough, right? You don't maximize, you're not minimizing, you're just satisfying.
Why does he have to create a new word?
I think it is an actual word, but because he's not
satisfying.
Well, I mean, it's not his word. He didn't coin the term, but some economists used it, or some group of economists used it. Yeah, I don't know. He's pretty widely read.
I'm sure, but like,
anyway, here's the concept.
Different than the regular word.
Here's the concept, right? If you had two choices, right? You had the choice of something that you really liked, right? Like you're choosing a car. Mm-hmm. And on the one hand, you have the Mercedes-Benz. That's super sweet. You love it. It's like your ideal car. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, there's like a Honda, right? Mm-hmm. And how do you decide which one you're going to buy? And the Honda's like, man, it's good enough, right? Like it'll get you where you're going, mm-hmm. right? Well, but it's not like, it's not lighting the fire of your interest.
Okay.
And so he's, his thing, that way he explains it, I'm probably butchering his explanation, but is, the reason why people pick Hondas because of money, right? Like if you had the money, you'd buy the Mercedes-Benz because that's the car you really want.
Isn't it also because our Hondas, like, you can, modify or customize them a lot easier than you could a Mercedes-Benz?
Well, if that's what you're into, maybe you want the Honda. Yeah. Right? There might be a different thing, right? Let's say I'm just a luxury, like I love luxury.
Oh, then you probably wouldn't get a Honda.
I might not, right? Or I'd get the Honda, why? Because that's all I can afford, right? That would be the satisfactory. It wouldn't be the worst thing I could get. There could be a third car that's like an old beat up, like Ford Taurus that, probably will break down at any moment. And, if I really just want to save money because I like to save money, maybe I'd get another car, I wouldn't even get the Honda. But it's this idea of being satisfied with kind of the mediocre or the less than ideal option, mm-hmm. right? And sometimes you kind of have to be that way, right? Like I don't have enough money. This is how much money I have. I'd love to have the super yacht, but all I can afford is the rowboat. Like I'm gonna get the rowboat. I need to go fishing, whatever. So I'll get to why he's explaining this or what the context of this explanation is. But this reminds me of kind of like what you're talking about, which is why do we need 5K when we have, or why do we need 5G if we already have whatever 720p? Like
all those things,
right? Isn't that good enough? Why aren't we satisfied?
Yeah.
Well, because there's something even better.
Why?
This one goes to 11, Kevin.
Yeah, I do appreciate going to 11 as much as the next guy, but. I don't know. I just don't know what it's for. Like, I use my phone.
Well, it's not really for us. You're right. It's not for everyday people, right? Like, I don't need to have 5 or 6G. I can get by. Like you said, like my videos go out there. You can understand them. They look pretty good.
They look, yeah.
Like
so who needs 5G?
But here's the thing. I wouldn't invest. Like if someone said to me, Rich, if you want 5G capability here, I need $1,000 a month, from you to get that service. I would laugh at them. I'd say, that's not worth it to me. Right? I don't need to pay. My viewers don't want me in 6K or 5K or whatever it is now.
But like, who is 5G for?
And like, real commercial users, people who are like broad or streaming. Like, I'll tell you. What do they call them? High speed traders.
Did I say 5G or 5K?
Whatever.
Well, it's different because like 5K
5K is
like,
resolution.
At least it's like it's clearer, right?
Yes.
And I guess like 5G is faster, but
yes. Oh, it's more.
Isn't it like it's only for mobile use, right? Like that's what 5G is.
I don't know. I don't know if there's. Well, at some point, everything's mobile, right? Like at some point it goes. Well, maybe not. Maybe that's not true.
Because they have what's it called with the fiber and the
T1 lines. They're probably even higher speed.
That's what I'm saying. Like if you need high speed, the solution has always been like landline it.
Well,
right?
But let's say you have some sort of application that requires you to like 5G, to mobile.
That's what I'm asking. Like, what?
I don't know. Maybe you're in the military. Maybe you are a governmental user or a commercial level user. Maybe you're a trucking company, a massive maybe you're Amazon. And Amazon wants to keep track of every package all over the world that they are delivering in their supply chain at the same time.
Yeah. Again, but that's on the business side. It makes sense for
it's
Amazon.
A commercial. You're an industrial/commercial user. You're an enterprise user.
But why should I, as on the consumer level, be interested in 5G? I don't need to keep track of entire corporations.
No, but every time you go and you want your package from Amazon, that is benefiting you.
Yeah,
that is benefiting you.
Yeah, but then why advertise it to the consumer instead of B2B?
Well, they don't really advertise it to the consumer. I don't know that anyone's really advertising.
They've been being like, we're rolling out 5G. Like,
Well, that's, you know why? Because then it makes you feel like you're getting something better, so they can charge you more. And
Yeah.
so then
like,
you feel like you need to go buy a new phone.
What am I?
Yeah, of course they're just feeding you shit so that you, I don't know.
Or maybe like,
You can still, you know what, Kevin? You can still go and get the old flip phone.
I could.
And, you know, and use that and not have a smartphone.
One application I can think of is like big tech or like design who, like Pixar.
Yeah.
Right? They have to, I don't know if they have to.
I mean, Kim Kardashian wants to deliver her content to you in dazzling 5K or 5 whatever it is.
I'm sure there are people out there who are like using that much data.
Well, I mean, if I'm on, let's say I'm on Robinhood and I want to buy a bazillion shares of GameStop, right? That's a mobile app.
Yeah, but why can't you do that with 4G?
It's not
or
fast.
LTE.
It's not
Why
fast.
does it need to be as fast?
Because I'm competing against high-speed traders and hedge funds, and they've got high-speed landlines. I want to get in there and get my 5G on so that I can buy up and corner that market and drive the prices up and screw the short sellers at the same time.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know, I'm not trying to make sense. I'm just trying to be funny. It's not working, but either way.
I don't know. Maybe I'm using my phone wrong.
Well, if you're not buying GameStop, then you're definitely on your phone. You're definitely not using it correctly.
Buying GameStop. That was a week ago.
Well, I don't know what they're on. It was GameStop, then it was Silver, and then it was some glove manufacturers.
AMC.
Well, that's 2 weeks. I mean, that's like, yeah.
Well, that was right after GameStop.
That was right after Game. That didn't go anywhere, really.
Yeah. I don't think any of them really went anywhere. And then Dogecoin.
Dogcoin?
Dogecoin.
Well, that was Elon Musk,
I know
right?
it's Doge. It might be Doge. No, he just bought like, I don't know, a lot of Bitcoin, like regular Bitcoin. And I guess the price spiked to a lot, so that's fine.
I still don't know how Bitcoin works. If anyone can tell me how Bitcoin works, put it in the comments.
Electricity.
Because of electricity
Yeah, and blockchains.
and
I
blockchain.
know those words. That's about it though.
I don't know what, I mean, I've had people try to explain this to me. I have one of my friends who's like a huge crypto guy.
Yeah.
And another friend, he has his own coin. Or at least he's part of that.
Wait, like he has a single.
He has a company, no. He has a company that has like one of these, not derivative, but other coins.
Yeah, like Litecoin or something.
Yeah, it's like Litecoin. I think it's Litecoin.
Cool.
But I don't know. I mean, these guys are, compared to me, geniuses, right? So I don't understand Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. So I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to invest in it. And it scares me to death that, I mean, maybe a little bit, right? If you can buy incremental shares in stocks.
Yeah.
So even though you can't afford whatever Apple's at, 300, 400, 500, whatever it is, you can buy incremental shares, you put $20.
Mm-hmm.
So, the nice thing about Bitcoin is that, it seems to keep going up.
Yeah.
And then it crashes down. And that's the scary part. Like, I wouldn't put my retirement in Bitcoin.
Well, yeah.
Although maybe I'd be a billionaire if I just went all in and it really, did well.
It's a weird thing because it's like somewhere in between like a fiat currency and something in between like that and a commodity, where it's not stable enough to be used regularly.
Well, it's not really a commodity because there's nothing there.
Yeah, but like it kind of is because people do give it value. But it does have value relative to the whole crypto experience itself. But I don't know.
I
don't know what that is exactly. But it's neat. It's cool. I don't know.
I mean, there's nothing behind it though, is there?
Isn't there?
Right? Like if there's something that says like the U.S. government will say like this is what dollar is worth, and there's something behind it. The Fed can, maybe it's not the U.S. government, it's the Fed that is controlling but there's no one in Bitcoin.
As far as I know, it's just like publicly open, maybe not sourced or controlled, but like anyone can look at the ledger and see like who made what transaction. And it's
I don't know
like,
what that means. Where's the ledger?
It's I don't know. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. I don't know.
Don't
invest in anything you don't understand. That was something that I learned. If you don't understand,
it's like
don't
no
invest in it.
single entity controls it. It's just like I don't know. You can access it in some way. I don't know. People know. I'm not one of those people.
That's what I'm saying. People know, really smart people.
Yeah.
I still don't understand. I'm too dumb to invest in Bitcoin.
Elon Musk just bought a whole bunch.
Yeah, he's really smart. That dude is really smart.
He's accepting it as
And
crazy.
he's like a multi-billionaire. So he's like isn't he the richest man on the planet now? Isn't he like officially the richest man?
Forget.
Yeah, so like what? Okay, fine. You're a multi-billionaire, sure. You know, you can go and invest in Bitcoin. It doesn't like you lose everything in your
I'm not sure
investment.
he's like investing with the hope of like gaining some sort of monetary return.
Why else would you invest?
Because you can't.
That is the definition of investing.
No, I
Yes.
don't know. Like, at least I've heard he doesn't. I don't know. He doesn't care about money at this point.
Yeah.
So
If you believe that, then he's definitely has the right PR group because
I don't know.
if anyone thinks that guys like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos
I think
and
it's just
they don't care about money.
No, if you just get to that point, like you're not doing things to accumulate money. You're doing things for other reasons. You're not gonna like completely take money off the table, but like the reason why you're doing things isn't to make money.
Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, if you guys aren't really interested in money anymore, hey man, I love you. Good job. Send some to me because I do care about money. I bet you Kevin would care about some money too if you want to kick it his way.
I think at that point it's.
I will definitely spend it to buy some moon tickets
you're looking
and
for power, influence, the
already
ability
have all that.
to make a mark on history.
Oh,
Yeah,
they're-
so like
they're-
you're doing all that. And
They've
that's
already
the
done it.
point of having money, not the other way around.
No, false. The end point is always to make more money than
I
that.
disagree.
We live in America, and that is the whole point of existence. If you were American,
Elon Musk is an American.
is he naturalized, or was he just not born?
He's probably naturalized at this
He was
point.
South African,
He
right?
was South African.
Or he is. I don't know if he was a citizen. He might be a dual citizen.
I'm sure he could go wherever he wanted.
I'm sure he pretty much can buy whatever he wants at this point.
See, that's the thing. Once you can buy everything, like money loses value.
Until you can no longer buy everything.
Yeah, but he's not there yet, so he doesn't value money as much right now. I'm sure if he lost it all, he would change his perspective, but right now it's like when you have access to oxygen.
Yes.
Oxygen isn't that important.
Until you can't breathe. Yes, that is true. When oxygen is all free and stuff, no one cares.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it'd be weird if you were the richest person in the planet. And and you're just like, I don't know, don't switch up your goals at some point.
Well, I mean, you see guys like Bill Gates who start a foundation and try to like bring fresh water and medicine to the world, and then they get accused of trying to implant microchips and take over the world, be a lizard king. But some of them do.
Yeah.
They say they hit about 70, 65, 70 years old, and they say, hey, you know what? We're probably not going to get immortality anytime soon, so I better do my best to try to get my ticket to heaven.
Like that's all it is. You're like, you see the light at the end of the tunnel, you're like, oh, I better accumulate some karma. Maybe not, I don't know. I'm just saying.
It's an interesting question because, I think a lot of people, when you do this charitable giving, right? Like I think a lot of people assume it's because you want to quote unquote leave your mark on the world. There have been a lot of very wealthy people who have been forgotten, right? Who maybe who never really, despite the fact that they were very, I'll give you an example. Like there's a lot of buildings that are named after very wealthy benefactors, and nobody remembers who the hell they are,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
I remember Arriaga.
Arriaga. Well, his name is everywhere,
Yeah.
or their name. It's a family name, right?
I really like their mat space.
And there have been a lot of people who never made that much money at all, who, are still ultra famous, who've been famous for thousands of years.
I was
right?
going to say Takashi 6ix9ine. Thousands.
So it's an interesting thing of like, you don't have to make money to have your name live on into not perpetuity, but for as long as there's kind of like humans keeping track of these things,
Yeah.
right? Or as long as books are being written and kept.
Do you think that's a loftier goal than money, or do you think they're equally shallow?
Well, I will say that money is something that you can use while you are actually alive.
You can use fame.
Whereas fame
notoriety
is well, they're both worthless when you're dead,
Yes, that's
right? So, yeah, you can use. I guess fame and money kind of go hand in hand. in our world, right? So I don't know if it's so easy to.
Not always.
And there's notoriety too.
Yeah.
And some people, they get famous by doing something that isn't monetarily motivated or financially or economically motivated.
Who can you think of?
Well, John Wilkes Booth, I don't know that maybe he did have a financial motivation for assassinating Lincoln.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a direct financial, right? It wasn't like Lincoln owed him $1 million, or he was paid to kill him.
I don't know enough about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
I mean, you have guys that are just crazy, right? Like,
like the Boston Marathon bombers.
yeah, they do it for jihad. They do it because they feel like it's for an important cause. Or like the Unabomber, they do it for in their mind, an important cause. They will become famous for it if they're even Timothy McVeigh. These are terrorists. I don't know why we're talking about terrorists, but that's one way that people often, try to seek fame is through doing terrible things. Because I think it's actually easier to do something terrible without having much skill than it is to actually to become, even relatively well known for doing something really, really well. It takes a lot of work and skill.
Because back in the day, that was kind of the function of art, right? Where if you didn't have the control over how to get information out, and you wanted to get out a message that was maybe countercultural, right? You could do that through artistic expression. And if it was good enough work, people would share that and spread the idea.
I guess it depends on what period you're talking about, because
Like Renaissance.
I don't think anyone really got any art out in the Renaissance unless you were attached to, a very wealthy family, that was willing to pay and take care of you, right?
Artistic expression is always, that comes after social stability typically.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what the Medicis were, if that was really a period of stability. I guess in Florence at some point it was.
I was just comparing it to the Dark Ages. I was comparing it to the Dark Ages.
Well, it's interesting people call them the Dark Ages, but there's actually a lot going on there.
Wasn't it just
in terms of art and philosophy? Thomas Aquinas was late Middle Ages.
But wasn't it dark because they
pretty
writing
light.
things down?
It was pretty light. It was before rational, scientific method.
Yeah.
So
it was just dark in terms of it was before the Enlightenment, not in terms of
it wasn't like they couldn't see. It wasn't like they didn't have science or they didn't have art or they didn't have culture.
But I thought it was dark because they weren't producing as much work, physical work, compared to the Renaissance.
It's interesting that I wonder who came up with the term Renaissance and who decided this period is the Dark Ages. These poor benighted souls who really didn't know anything and are pathetic. We really know what it's all about. I think there was a lot of things that were going on.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
When did the printing press happen?
Gutenberg?
Yeah. Is that
it was going to be. My guess is that it's before. I don't know. It's probably the beginning of the Renaissance because I'm not sure you could have had the Renaissance without it.
Yeah.
But that was where the Bible started getting, right? Kind of mass produced, as opposed to, illuminated manuscripts that were painstakingly drafted by the monks.
Yeah.
Right. So I wanted to talk about John's videos. So I posted on my Facebook, and it's funny because he's every time you see one of these videos on BJJ Fanatics, that's 15 minutes or a half hour, somebody talking about something. It's always a preview for their new video series. And, you'd think that after, I don't know how many videos or instructionals that John and Gordon and Gary have put out, probably close to 20 at this point. There's 100 hours of material that can be done. But no. So now John's got this new thing called New Wave. That's going to be their new, their name for their gym down in Puerto Rico. Their style. So it's New Wave Jiu Jitsu. And the basis or the premise of this video is positional escapes, right? So it's not just escaping, let's say from a pin, from a cross side or a mount. It's escaping into an attacking position, right? And I put on when I posted, I was like, John showed me this like 15 years ago. And I mean, as you see it in the way Gary does. I mean, everything that Gary and Gordon, in terms of when they escape, right? Like I think we were talking about this the other day where, they would lay down and let the person mount.
Yeah.
And then they would, hip escape into a heel hook.
Yeah.
Right? And that happened a bunch of times in the beginning, like when they first started doing their little run, 5 years ago, whatever it was. So, this is the whole thing now that John this is going to be the new, I don't know where he goes from here other than, and he's, but it was interesting, his kind of his analysis, and I would encourage everybody to go and look at it, right? I think even though it's something that I've known for a very long time, and I've tried to teach here, and I don't think is necessarily an epiphany to most people doing jiu-jitsu, but he talks about taking advantage of people who, or not taking advantage of people, but taking advantage of a situation where, someone does all this work, and as you invest more and more work, you become less and less willing to abandon that effort, right? So if you spent 3 minutes, passing the guard, and then, establishing side control, and then getting mount, if someone starts doing something, to escape, you're likely to spend a lot of effort to maintain that position. And that's kind of what you're taking advantage of, right? Like that person who's trying to hold on to the mount or whatever the position is, in order to, they're going to hold on.
Yeah.
They're not going to give up the mount.
So you're forcing them to expend energy unnecessarily.
So, and this is actually something that I think a lot of people who've trained with me that I've noticed over time is that, because I've been doing this for a long time, is that the people that are the toughest for me are not the people who try to hold on to things. It's the people who just like step off, right? Like, so if you have Elias or Laird or you or whatever, like you're not going to sit around, and say like, oh, I'm totally just going to hang on to this mount, no matter what's happening, or how far along. You'll switch, you adjust, you go to something else. You're not, even though, John uses the idea of the sunk cost, right? Like you've sunk a lot of effort into establishing this position, and people don't want to give it up. They'll even spend even more effort, even though it's not good, right? And I think it's good on both sides of that equation, right? It's good to think about ways to escape into attacking positions, into submission, like winning positions. It's also really important for people to understand that sometimes it is a good idea to not insist on holding a given position from anywhere, right? I mean, there's a lot of times where, you have a good passing position, you're about to pass, and the person's able to make like a little hook, or they're able to make a grip, or they're able to sweep their hips, or whatever it is. And if you keep driving, you're just gonna wind up sweeping yourself, right? And I think even though I think John was really focusing on the idea of like, he's going to teach you how to, escape into these into these winning positions. It's an equally important lesson for everybody on offense to realize, like, there's a time where you need to cut bait, right? And just because you've sunk or invested a lot of effort, sweat equity into it, it doesn't mean that you should hold on to the death to keep it. I mean, sometimes, and again, he's not being doctrinaire or absolutist about it. He's like, of course, sometimes you should do that. And sometimes, like, he was like, look, sometimes it's better to, move into the guard. Like, just, like, move back to that neutral, equal position. You don't always have to try to finish the match, right? There's a lot of situations where that doesn't, make sense or is impossible given the circumstances. But, I think it is an interesting perspective, and he is correct that it's not one that has been discussed a lot in, the wider jiu-jitsu community, I don't think.
I always really liked Neon Belly for that purpose.
Yeah.
Where like
you're really good at that.
You're like you pass, and then maybe you're not yet settled as far as like chest to chest goes. They start shrimping out. If you're able to just drive that knee across, you can both not insist on the same position, you are technically transitioning, and at the same time you can use that force to like flatten their hips out and stay attached to them and keep them from.
Well, you see it a lot now where people are shifting from, thinking like I have to pass and get cross-eyed. That used to be it, right? I'm going to pass, get cross-eyed or not.
Yeah.
That was the whole deal. And if you were in guard, it was, I'm going to try to sweep this person, or I'm going to try to triangle them.
Yeah.
If I was standing, right, okay, I just want to guillotine them, or I want to double leg them. I want to get a takedown or a finish. Now, you see people who are like, I'm going to arm drag you, take you back. And I'm just going to grab and just climb onto your back from staying position. That's it. That's been people have been doing it for a long time, obviously, but it hasn't been, I haven't seen so many people at such high levels just constantly hunt the back from standing, where it's almost, that's the strategy now. It's like, I don't need the takedown, I just need to get onto your back.
I feel like that's been the strategy since like 2000.
Marcelo?
I would say like
some people did it, right? Some people,
like Galvao, after Galvao
Yeah.
started winning, where like he started really proselytizing the backpack system,
yeah.
and it played really well with the meta because people, every time you try and pass, people turn over. And
Yes, exactly, right? Like,
the thing.
I'm passing, right? Sometimes I don't need to get chested. Most of the time now, it's like people are not getting, maybe in the gi, but even in the gi, it's 1,000 times what happens. You go to pass, the person, they bail out, and they're going to go to their knees, right? So if you are just waiting for that, as opposed to I'm gonna fight to make to get chest to chest. Like that's a tough battle.
Yeah, like accepting the inevitability and just like playing with the structure of the rules and what they're likely to want to avoid. And most people in tournament settings are gonna want to.
If you think about it, it's like, okay, I don't want to get pinned, right? I don't want to get cross-eyed. So what do? You bail out. You expose your back.
It's not that you don't want to get pinned. It's that you don't want to give the person the 2 points.
Yes, well that's what, because you're going to get pinned. If you get pinned, you get your 2 points. And not only do you lose the 2 points, but now that person is in a dominant position. You can't move
anything.
anything.
The thing is now, but like, it's not just the pin. It is the 2 points because that is the DDF strategy where they don't have to take into account points.
Yes.
So now it's like, okay, like
all that high movement.
Come into this position that most people consider not dominant, and then you're not getting points.
Yeah.
And I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So like,
Abu Dhabi, there are points. So, and it becomes much more. You see it, right? Like Gordon's able to finish almost everybody.
Yeah.
He has a very high finishing percentage. I think he's finished everyone other than Buchecha.
I don't know.
What?
I
I know he didn't finish Buchecha. I know it was like he won by a negative point or something.
Probably finished.
But Gary lost.
Yeah.
Basically in the last seconds to JT Torres on I think JT didn't want a takedown or something. So it's still they can't get away from points altogether.
Yeah, not entirely, but it's still like the first 5 minutes. If you can play their game, and most of them are submission oriented, so I think it does still play to their strategy.
Yeah, sure. John, I think built his system with Abu Dhabi in mind.
Yeah.
It was very intentional. And there's a reason why you don't see them go up very often in point tournaments.
Yes.
Right?
I'm sure they do well, but not dominate.
And they don't really go into deep tournaments either.
Yes.
Right? Because there's a lot more stalling involved. And gripping.
Did Gordon do one gi tournament, or is it?
I think as a purple belt. He may have won purple belt. I'm not sure if he won the Worlds at purple belt.
I might be thinking he did no gi Worlds at JF.
I think he did do no gi Worlds at purple belt. I think he won it.
He did a black belt too.
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah, but he didn't do a brown belt because I think he wasn't allowed to be brown belt. Or he was brown belt for not long enough. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. Maybe he won a brown belt. But then he couldn't do the first time at black belt because he wasn't at brown belt long enough. I have to go early today because I have a meeting. So we'll go for another 8 minutes. And then I gotta bust out of here.
Can we talk about the nature versus nurture thing we were talking
Nature
about?
versus,
Do you have a
actually I have a thing I wanted to say, because I think it plugs into what you were saying, that, yesterday we got into like a spirited debate over a little bit nature versus nurture and like potential and motivation based on your potential. And I was thinking it kind of goes back to what you've always talked about, which is, you know, for me, you know, like I always realized, I think from a pretty early age, right, that I was never going to, you know, play professional basketball at any level. But that didn't stop me from playing basketball because I love playing basketball.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in jiu-jitsu, right? Like, I knew from a very early point in my jiu-jitsu training that I was not going to be an Abu Dhabi champion, right? Or even a black belt world champion in the gi. But that didn't stop me or discourage me from doing jiu-jitsu, right? I mean, I still love doing jiu-jitsu no matter what. You know, I'm not motivated by medals and accomplishments, but just by the love of doing jiu-jitsu itself, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it goes to your point of, I think that you reiterate a lot, which is just like, enjoy what you're doing. You know, enjoy jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu's sake, and, you know, that's a healthy way to go about things. What were you going to say?
Like something similar, where, like, I think my main point was, my main idea is that, like, this is cheesy, but I think, like, humans have, like, infinite potential.
False.
Right? Like, there is an unlimited thing, like, unlimited number of things that a person can do. Right?
Okay, all right.
Like, as far as, like,
maybe. I don't know about it.
you know, all of the optional things, like, it is uncountable. And every person has unlimited potential. Some people have more unlimited potential, right? There are degrees of infinite here, but everybody, every
Infinite is
single
infinite. You
person,
can't like carve up infinite.
you can. There are different sizes of infinite.
You can't say half of infinite.
I can say
or
that.
twice infinite.
I can
Infinite's
say that.
infinite.
I can say that this amount of infinity over here is greater than that amount of infinity over
I
there.
don't think that's.
That
I'm not
is-
a mathematician, but I don't think that's
that
true.
is true. We can go over.
Anyway, go to your
after
point.
class.
Okay, infinite.
Right? Like every person can like. All right. So the idea here is the number of possible. I like this fact. The number of possible brain connections in your brain is greater than like the number of atoms in the universe. Right? The number like the ability
Is that
for
true?
yeah.
Are you
Like,
sure?
like there are so
Who
many.
counted? How
neurons
would
in
you
your
know?
brain. Like it's then because you can be
You have
like,
to say known universe
it
because
could
there's a
be-
lot of stuff we don't know in the universe.
Sure. The observable universe, how about, right? There's just like, there's so many different possible ways the neurons can be connected in your brain, right? And like this leads, it's probably not like infinite, but it's like basically to us, it might as well be, right? So I think my idea is that like, if you took any sort of child, like as long as it had all senses and hands, and like, you know,
Okay.
regular
Healthy
human
child.
stuff, right? If I gave that child like a violin,
Yes.
any child, provided it was like within the normal range of like what would you consider a human being, I think that child, if given enough time and enough support, could learn how to play beautiful music, right? I'm not saying that that child could become the best violin
Okay.
player.
All right. Yeah. If you
But, like,
practice enough at one thing, you'll
But
get
that
pretty good at it.
that child could,
What if they're tone deaf?
then they could still figure it out. Like, I think if
I
you're
mean,
told that that's something you can practice. You
Maybe.
can
Okay.
listen to
I'll
music.
grant you that if a person just practices hard enough at one
You
thing,
can reach your
regardless
potential.
of their actual absolute potential or absolute
Whatever
talent,
that means.
it just means talent relative to
But
everyone
like
else.
absolute potential, there's no way to like measure that, or there's no way to even like conceptualize that, because there's so many different like possible futures for you.
No. Let's just keep it on the one thing, right? Like, let's take your example of violin,
Sure.
right? So, I don't know how many violin players there are on the planet at any given time.
At least two.
All right, so I don't know. Let's just say there's X violinists, right?
You want to say this?
And there is among those violinists,
Uh,
there is a scale of ability of playing the violin.
what do you mean? Like how?
Some people play the violin better than others.
Yeah, but violin playing is a subjective thing.
Well, one could say that yes, at some level, right, you get to the tippy top of the pyramid, and there's usually a couple people on that level.
Yeah.
And most of the time, everyone will say, I like, you know, if you're a fan of violin playing, you'll say, I think they all play beautifully. I just happen to have a personal, you know, like of this person the most.
Yeah.
Right? I just love the way they like guitar players, right? I mean,
Dart players?
guitar players, right? There's a lot of great guitar players. Some people I like Jack White. Other people might like Eric Clapton. Other people might like Buddy Guy, Hendrix. I mean, we could go on for days about all these great. Who's the best out of all the best, right? And I agree. At some point, that becomes a debate over style and opinion and that sort of thing. But having said that, each one of those people have mastered the fundamentals of playing guitar.
But you don't know if they've reached their potential.
Well, maybe not, but they're in the top.
But you don't know if they've
No, I'm not making that point. I'm saying of those people, those are the tippy top, right? At any moment, they're the top 100,
those
the top
people,
500.
Those are like your people as the people who are
well,
closest
they're
to reaching their potential,
right?
and you don't know if they've reached their potential.
If I took a poll of the top 100 of anything, of course there's always a little bit of controversy, top 100 novels, top 100 songs, top 100 artists.
So this is an opinion poll?
So, if you have the quote unquote, the experts in the field, people who pay attention to this, whatever it is, they'll have some sort of consensus. It may not be perfect, I'm not always gonna, we've done this before where we say, well, who do you think the top 5 jiu-jitsu players are?
Sure.
We might have some, I might say he may not have been my pick, but I don't dispute that he or she is one of the best, right? Like, whatever, right? Some people love Marcelo Garcia, some people say, man, whatever. Some people love Hodger, other people say, or Hickson. Some people say Hickson. I don't know if I put Hickson in the top 5, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe that's not unfair. Maybe that's not fair. But, if someone said, I'm going to put Hickson in my top 5, I wouldn't be like, you're an idiot. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? If someone said Hoist Gracie for jiu-jitsu, I might be like, I don't know. But a lot of people would say, no, Hoist belongs there. We wouldn't be here without Hoist, right?
So you're telling me
you could make a point. But my point is, nobody would say, if you put me in the top 5, the community would all be like, you are out of your mind.
What do you mean? Top 5 in terms of ability, or top 5 people who have gotten closest to reaching their potential?
Well, no, I think if you're so if you're gonna judge it not by your, it kind of goes to the point, right? You could say people who have reached their potential. I think that is a much more difficult thing to measure than people who are the best in what they're doing at any given moment or any given period of time.
How do you look at a person and identify whether or not they've reached their potential?
Well, if they are a champion,
that doesn't mean
I would say that you don't know that they have reached their absolute potential, but you could say that they have come very close to their ceiling. You could assume that they've come very close to their ceiling.
Assume,
but I'm saying it's a safe assumption. I'm not saying perfect, right? I'm not saying there's an absolute potential scale.
It's just if you would choose anyone,
But what I'm saying
would choose this, but that doesn't mean there isn't somewhere out there.
Let me just finish, right? You could say, I agree with you that if you could say, look, this person even would exceed their potential. They do even better than what we thought they did.
What?
Right? You could say that.
Wait.
You could say that. You could say that person, I never thought they would do anything, and they just won I had a friend of mine, good guy, very athletic, and he won the trials and went to Abu Dhabi. And when they said it to me, I was like, holy crap, really? That's crazy. I would have never, not in insulting, not like, oh, he sucked, but just like, wow, I never thought that he would be able to do that.
Your ability to judge someone's potential is flawed in this case.
Well, I don't know that if you would ask me, do you think he could have done it? I would have said no. But the fact that he did it surprised me. He was an athletic guy. I think he was one of those guys who, if you said to me, he's going to focus just on jiu-jitsu, do you think he could make it? I would be like, maybe. But given what I knew of him and what he did and other things that were going on in his life, the fact that he made it was surprising to me because he's a very successful, I think I went to law school with him, but he's not a lawyer. Yeah. He does something else in business, but he's very successful at what he does. And I don't think jiu-jitsu was ever his primary focus. Yeah. So, you could say, look, it's all perceived. It's all perceived potential, right? No one has a crystal ball as to what the actual absolute ceiling is that anyone can reach. Yeah. We have our best guesses, right? Everyone has their best. Even you and I, when we think about what we could achieve, we are.
I'm kind of thinking when you're thinking about yourself and what you could do.
Yeah, no. That's, again, you can have the same biases. You could have a perception of I'm not good enough to achieve this. And maybe you are. We all have a lot of untapped potential that we won't recognize in ourselves for whatever number of reasons, right? I think that is very true. But that is inherently difficult to measure.
Yes.
Right? So what I'm saying is, if you, not that people can't achieve or overachieve on their perceived or whatever potential, but rather that in any given moment there is a scale or a spectrum of ability, right? And if I just so here, for example, right? If I decide to start learning how to play the guitar today, right? And I just play and play and play, that's all I do, I just play. For the first couple months, and probably years, no one is gonna be like, Rich is a good guitar player.
He's got so much potential.
They might at best say I have a lot of potential.
Illustrate that as a way
right?
to be polite.
But they're not going to say Rich is good, right? And so for the first couple of years, right, I'm going to be a beginner.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing with jiu-jitsu. Everyone starts off. We're all kind of beginners. Now some people do have an advantage, right? Like if you have larger hands, to a point, guitar playing is because you can make the chords easier, right? If you have small hands, now there are ways around it. There's not to say like you have to have big hands to be a good guitar player. And sometimes you can have too big hands, right? Like if you have Shaquille O'Neal hands, then, you know, like you're not going to be able to, your fingers are too big. But, you know, there's a point where you can even become pretty good at something. I could become a journeyman is what sometimes people call it. Like, you're pretty good, right? And then after a while, you might even say like, hey, Rich is really good after 15 years of playing nonstop the guitar. I would imagine that I could get pretty good at the guitar. Right? Yeah. Now, is anybody going to put me in the band? You know, maybe, maybe not. There's other things that are involved. I could be a session musician. Yeah. Right? I could be really good playing the guitar. But people could say like, hey, he's pretty good or she's pretty good at this. But would you be Jimi Hendrix? Would you be Eric Clapton? Would you be? But that brings me back to like, are things only worth doing if you could be the best at them? No. But that seems to be the driving factor behind this conversation. Where I don't know, where. No, it's actually the opposite. I'm not saying. I mean, that's why I said what I said before, which is you should do things. I agree with you that you shouldn't do something just because, or not do it, just because you think you are the best, or you could be the best, or that you'll never be the best. Right? Like a lot of people just they'll give up on something because they say, well, I'll never win a medal, or I'll never do this, or I'll never, you know, be at this level that I want to be, you know, or what I think I should be, or what I think I could have been, or whatever. Maybe I just never thought, I never thought I could be, you know, like a Abu Dhabi champion or MMA champion or whatever like that, you know. But that didn't stop me from training. I still love training. I still love playing basketball. I don't play it anymore because I'm crippled, but. Right, like you can still enjoy what you're doing, right? Like you're sitting over there playing with your lyre, you derive some sort of enjoyment. I wouldn't say you're good at it. Thanks. But I mean, I don't mean that as an insult, but rather that I think you'd acknowledge you're not that good at it either. It's not unpleasant to listen to you practice. Thanks. Right? Like it's kind of nice to listen to it. But if someone who played the lyre for 20 years heard you, they'd probably want to give you a little bit of a lesson or a pointer or two, right? Here, Kevin, let me show you. No, they wouldn't. I mean, because it's not unpleasant to listen to. It's not like you're like banging it against the wall and doing dumb things with it. Thanks. So, yeah. I mean, if you enjoy doing something, you should be able to derive enjoyment just from the activity itself. Maybe one day. But you should also recognize that, like, I mean, it's sort of like something Marcelo Garcia said, which is, I think it was Marcelo, but like, there are people that may come or go that might be better than me. Oh, but nobody loves jiu-jitsu. But nobody loves jiu-jitsu more than I do. And I think I feel that way too. Yeah. Like, I mean, people might love jiu-jitsu as much as I love it, but nobody loves it more than I love it, right? Like, no. And I would say I love it more just because I'm not as like, so if a world champion says, no, I love jiu-jitsu, I'd be like, no, it's easy for you to love jiu-jitsu because you're a world champion. I suck at jiu-jitsu and I still love doing it. So my love is stronger. It's like unrequited love is stronger and scarier than, you know, mutual love. I don't know, that's silly. I like that's a quote I think about a lot, as far as like motivation, why I do what I do. I don't know, it's nice knowing that there are people out there who would train even if they weren't champions. I think most of the people train even though they know, there's under no illusions. I mean, we all love to pretend that we're like Rafa Mendez or Paulo Miao or whatever when we're training. Right? I used to love to pretend I was Magic Johnson when I was playing basketball. Yeah. But no one who was watching me play ever confused me with Magic Johnson. Oh, by the way, yesterday I talked about Michael Jordan being the greatest basketball player of all time. I don't think that's true. I'm not having this conversation with you. I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the greatest basketball player of all time. I'll throw that out there. People want to talk about Kobe and LeBron, and I got to check the numbers, but I think Kareem is still the best ever.
When has he even been in the conversation since Jordan?
What's that?
I'm not saying.
Well, this is what happens. When guys that are the greatest, they leave, and then the next new flavor comes along, and everyone forgets about the old guys. Kareem was like a force of nature. On both sides of it. I mean, Jordan was amazing. I'm not saying Jordan sucks. I'm not saying Kobe sucks. I'm not saying LeBron sucks.
How many adults did Kareem make cry, do you think?
A lot.
I don't think as
A
many as
lot.
Jordan.
Many.
Anyway, you're running late for your meeting.
All right.
I don't.
Weigh in the comments. If you go check out Kareem, I'm going to check out Kareem's stats, and we're going to see.
It's funny. I did a bunch of reports in elementary school on Michael Jordan. I used to idolize him.
And you didn't.
I wish
You didn't bring up Kareem, whether or not he was like measure. Everyone goes Jordan versus LeBron or Jordan versus